Welcome to the What Makes Us Human podcast with your expert hosts, Pia Johnson,
Narcissistic mothers. That's a juicy topic.
Ayanna
And I want to talk about the P word.
And realize the value of lived experience, right?
So whether you're a psychology enthusiast, a curious mind, or just someone who's intrigued by the human condition, this podcast is for you.
Ooh, Lord, Pia, we're going to get into it tonight. Ooh.
How y'all doing? Welcome back to What Makes Us Human podcast. Pia,
How are
what's
you?
up?
I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm good, girl. I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm happy to be back. Happy
Yes.
we are coming back with a dynamic. I think we're going to have a dynamic conversation tonight, Pia.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, definitely.
I'm happy to be recording and I'm happy to be back in this space and happy to be here with you
Thank
And-
you. You too.
and all of our viewers. So welcome
Yeah.
back to What Makes Us Human podcast. Today we're talking about faith versus fear,
Wow.
right? I mean,
That's deep.
so that's deep, right? There's so many ways we can go with that and so many directions we can take, but we want to have a conversation of faith versus fear today and really get into the weeds of things and explore how we
Yeah.
can overcome some fear. But as always, we got a Dear Auntie letter here. So
Yes.
we're gonna start it off right with our Dear
Okay.
Auntie letter, okay?
What's going on there?
All right. And the letter says, Dear Aunties, I need a little advice because I'm struggling. I'm a single mother and I have a 2-year-old child. I'm an educator and I love what I do, but it has become extremely difficult to manage everything on my own. I live in New York, and although I make a decent salary, I've been feeling like I can't catch a break. Girl.
Mm.
I've been feeling like this, like it's time, I've been feeling like it's time for a change and that I need to move out of New York. But I'm scared because it's just me and my son, and I've never lived outside of New York other than for college. I've been praying and asking God for a sign, but I'm lost and I just need some advice. Should I stay or should I go?
Mm. Okay. Well, it's right on topic, faith versus fear, right?
Okay.
Taking with faith, So here's the thing. I would say, right, to look at it not from a fear-based perspective, but from the perspective of what makes sense in this person's life, right?
Yes.
As we know, living in New York can be extremely expensive. Having a young child is also very difficult, childcare. Everything here just costs more money.
Yes.
But I would definitely ask, where are they considering going? Are they going to a red state or a blue state? That
All of that. Yeah,
definitely,
that matters.
you have to take that into consideration, especially being a woman. What state they're going into matters. Do they have a support system in the places that they're looking? Right? Are they
Mhm.
looking in places where they have family, where they have friends? How are they situating themselves? Are they looking to go into an area where there's transportation? What's the job market like in the area
Yeah.
that they're going into? So I would say, coming at it from a very what's the word I'm looking for? Just mindful place, right? Taking their time, finding a state that is conducive to their life and the way they want to live and raise their child. And once they find that, I say go for it. Just leap of faith.
I think that's great advice, Pia. I don't know if I could give any better advice than what you gave. I will add, since we are talking about faith today, that faith without work is dead. Y'all know, I've heard that
Mhm.
quote before.
Mhm.
And so I think I'm seconding oh Lord Jesus, we're going to edit that. I'm seconding, is that even a word? What you said. I second that notion. That's what I want to say. I second that notion of what you said around being mindful in her decision, doing some research, sitting and thinking about the pros and cons, thinking about what you have currently in New York versus what you can get in another state that you're interested in. all of the things that Pia mentioned, I think is the work before you step out on faith. But once you do that work, yeah, go for it. Life is meant to be lived, and you're gonna experience new things. You know,
Yeah.
don't be afraid of newness because you
Mhm.
learn about yourself in new experiences all the time. So I say do the work that Pia so eloquently laid out, and then yeah, take that leap. Take that
Yeah.
leap.
Take the leap. So if you're watching, take the leap.
Right. And then let
Yeah.
us know. Please
Yeah.
write in and be like, I was that letter and this is what
Yeah.
happened because
Let
we
us
want to know.
know how things
The
work out.
aunties want to know how it worked out for you,
Yes.
but
Yes.
we wish you well, and I can so relate. Um and we might get into that tonight. I might share how I can relate, but I can so relate with that readers, that watchers story. New York is crazy. All
Yeah.
right, Pia, let's get into it. We're talking about faith versus fear. And I kind
Yeah.
of want to start with a question. We have a few questions that we have. I want to start with, what do you think is the relationship between faith and fear? Because we said faith
Mhm.
versus fear, but
Mhm.
how do faith and fear play up against each other? What would you say?
So I would say faith and fear, they play against each other in that they are polar opposites, right?
Mm,
Um, Faith is the trust in the unknown, right? While fear stems from uncertainty and doubt, right?
mm,
Faith allows us to move forward despite the fear, while
mm,
fear is paralyzing. And so you see those polar opposites, of moving forward, staying back, moving forward, staying back. So I think they play against each other like that good angel and that devil on
mm.
the shoulder.
Yeah. I like how you describe that. I do think that faith is the belief in things unseen and yet to come.
Uh-huh.
And I think fear, like you said, is rooted in doubt. It's rooted in uncertainty. Um, a lot of times it's rooted in conditioning and
Uh-huh.
ego and trauma. Like all of those things feed into our
Yes.
fear and our worry.
Yeah.
And yeah, fear stops us from moving. Fear stops us from believing. I think faith requires belief, and I think fear
Yes.
stops us from believing.
Yeah.
So I
True.
think that that's
True. True.
how they work in relationship to each other. Fear can
That is very
immobilize
true.
you from believing.
Yeah. Yeah. But let me ask you this. Is there
Hmm.
such thing as having a healthy amount of fear?
Yeah, I mean that's the survival mechanism that we have. You
Mhm.
know, we're wired. We humans by design are wired to survive, and so we have a particular mechanism that alerts us to danger. Like when we back in the way back in the day when we were cavemen,
Yeah.
we had to have certain mechanics internally that would like alert us like a dashboard that something is coming
Mhm.
up. But over
Mhm.
time, those natural survival instincts kind of went into overdrive, and then we created technology, but we didn't get rid of the anxiety. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
anxiety now is triggered when there isn't a real, actual perceived threat or danger.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's where we have people who deal with have difficulty with anxiety because
Mhm.
their mind is overactive with fear.
Exactly. Anything, everything is okay in moderation, right? There
Hmm.
is such thing as, a healthy amount of anxiety because we live in this world, right? As
Right.
as long as we're living, we're going to be anxious about things, we're going to be fearful about things. But where it crosses the line is it becomes unhealthy when it prevents us from growing and taking positive actions and steps in our life,
I
right?
agree.
That's when we have to draw the line and we have to figure out, better coping mechanisms.
I definitely agree. And I taught this to some students I was working with over the summer that our brains, unfortunately, are wired to have automatic negative thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
I call them ants. Ants come and they ruin the picnic. And it could be a beautiful sunny day. Nothing is wrong. You're walking down the street. Everything is lovely. The sun is shining on you. Everything's good. And then here comes this ant. This automatic negative thought that just falls into your psyche. Oh, something bad is going to happen. I'm going to step out in the street. I'm going to get hit by a car.
Yeah. Yeah.
You might hear people call it intrusive thoughts, ruminating thoughts, all of those things that happen. That's how anxiety works. And unfortunately, our brains are wired to have these automatic negative thoughts. So when you're thinking about something, your brain automatically shoots something negative as a way to protect you, as a way to steer you and keep you safe. But like Pia says, when it stops you from moving, when it stops you from progressing, when it stops you from living a fulfilled and healthy life, then it has become an issue that you might need some support in addressing. You can have fear, but you should still be able to do in spite of being nervous or in spite of being anxious about something.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay.
So, Pia, let me ask you, because we're talking about fear. We're talking about psychologically how fear works. We're talking about fear versus faith. How can faith help someone overcome fear? And do you have an example of a time where you had to rely on faith to overcome something that you were afraid of?
Good question. So I think having faith gives us the confidence that things will work out. Even if we have no idea how these things will work out, it gives us the strength to do the work to figure it out, right? It allows us to trust in something greater than ourselves, right? Having that faith, whether it's higher power, the universe, or our own inner strength. It gives us that push, that right, to do the work and figure things out. And for me, I think when I think about faith, the biggest, most prevalent thing I can think of was 2 years ago when I was diagnosed with a very rare genetic disease called amyloidosis that normally results in the death of people pretty quickly. And, having to go through 2 years of intensive chemotherapy, not knowing whether or not I would live. But also knowing that I'm not going to let that intrusive thought invade my fight, right? That's not going to be my story. I will fight to the end and I'll be okay. Which 2 years later, I'm off of chemotherapy. I'm okay. There's no cure for the disease. However, the disease is controlled. It's not actively attacking me. So, and I do think that if I did not have faith, I would not be sitting here speaking to you right now.
Thank you for sharing that story and the testimony of how you leaned on your faith to push through something that, one, was unexpected, two, unless somebody has been in your shoes, can't imagine how difficult it was to go from being completely healthy. And I know this person, I know Pia, so I could talk about, to go from being completely healthy to being hit with a diagnosis and something as detrimental as it could lead to death, and then having to push through and go through the treatment that you went through, and now on the other side of 2 years of being in remission. Amazing testimony. And I love that you said whether it's a higher power, the universe, or our own inner strength, because a lot of people, when you hear the word faith, some people get like tight around the collar, because they attach it to religion.
Yes.
And we're not having a conversation about religion here. Like, you believe whatever you want to believe, whatever doctrine you follow in your life is your own right. But faith is believing that there is something that's sustaining you.
Yeah.
Even if that is, like Pia mentioned, your own inner strength. Like, if you don't believe in a higher power, but you believe in yourself, you believe you're going to figure it out, you believe you're going to make a way, then that is having faith in
Shall
yourself.
be done.
It
Yeah,
shall
yeah.
be done. And I think
You had to
that,
earn that you had to tap into your faith.
oh girl, that's my life. First of all, anybody who knows me, I have it tatted on my arm. If I could show the viewers, the cost of freedom is faith. That's my
Mm,
motto for my own personal company. That's my motto for my life. I believe I don't do anything without faith. But I've had to get there. I've had to get to that point of deeply trusting,
yeah.
sometimes outside of my own knowing. But a time that I can think of is uh, the sweet time I can think of is becoming a parent. And fully leaning on faith because I always wanted to be a parent, never had the opportunity to do it the traditional way. And one day I heard you should adopt, like in the
Mm,
air, like in a whisper in the breeze. And I was like, what? Who said that? Because that wasn't my intention or what I wanted to do, but I followed through. I said, if I heard it, then follow through, lean into it, lean into the instruction. And I did. And I ended up getting into foster care, not knowing anything about foster care, the system. It was so much unknown. It was in the middle of the pandemic. I was
yeah,
sheltered in.
I
I
remember.
didn't have anybody around me to help guide me through this decision. I told
Uh-huh.
my families via Facebook, via a video that I was adopting, and everybody was like, what? Ayanna's going through a midlife crisis. But it all happened as it was supposed to. And then I was blessed with my beautiful child. And even the process of fostering her and getting up to the adoption was full of just believing in faith because it was
Yeah.
never guaranteed. Like there was always an opportunity that her birth parents would come back and want her back, that or some family member or something could happen that they would take her away from me. There was always this fear that the shoe was going to drop on the other end of the foot and I was going to bond with this child and this child was going to be taken away from me. There was always a fear that I wasn't going to be able to be the parent that this child deserved or be a parent, just be a parent, period. But I decided to believe that the desire of my heart would be met and that
Mm-hmm.
even if I didn't know how and I didn't know when, I knew that the what was going to happen for me. And that's how faith carried me. And now I'm 3 years in the game and she's mine. They're not coming back to snatch her up. I got the adoption papers, the adoption decree. She is
Definitely.
legally mine. But
You know,
deeper than
I
that.
like that you talk about the fear because it
Oh,
shows
yeah.
that faith and fear can coexist, right?
Yeah.
In my case, faith and fear because I was scared as heck, right? But I never lost the faith. The two were present, right?
Oh,
I
yeah.
had that faith despite that fear, and I did not let that fear dictate my actions. I did not let that fear take over my thoughts, and it sounds like neither did you in your case with adoption. You didn't let that fear take over you.
Absolutely. I think faith and fear always coexist. It's just
Yeah,
which one do you want to breathe life into? Which
exactly.
narrative do you want to pay attention to?
Yeah,
They always, it's like love and hate. They're going back and forth with each other. So I'm
yeah.
afraid, but I believe. I believe, but I'm afraid. And which
Sure.
one do you magnify? That's it. Like there were times where I would cry and I'd say, God, what am I doing? You told me to do this and this is hard. And I don't know what
Yeah,
I'm doing.
yeah,
I don't know what's next. I don't know how I'm gonna make a way. I have no idea.
uh-huh.
I feel unprepared for this, for what I'm being asked to do. And then there'll be a little voice saying, it's not gonna work out. It's all gonna mess up.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
about to fail. You're not enough. You don't have enough. You can't do enough. And then it would be a voice, just hold on. Just wait. It's okay. Everything's going to come to pass. You're
yeah,
always protected. You're always
yeah.
provided for.
It's
It's
that
all right.
angel and devil,
There
right?
you
That's that
go.
duality, right,
So
right
it's like,
there,
which story
right?
do you listen to? Which one do you
Mhm.
let dictate your actions? Do you let fear dictate
Exactly.
your actions or do you let faith dictate your actions? So,
So, what would you tell some of our viewers some of the practical ways that you suggest to maybe some of your clients and to yourself, right? Because we all experience this to build faith over fear,
yeah.
right? Some tangible things that they do to tap into it.
Well, one, I think intuition building
Mm,
through sitting with yourself
yeah.
in meditation,
Mm-hmm.
through
Mm-hmm.
um through interrogating your thoughts, being honest about what you're afraid of and being honest about what you want to see come to pass. And so the negative thoughts are going to come, receive them, and then filter them out and replace them with more affirming thoughts. I know you're afraid, but you can do it. I know this is difficult, but we've done difficult things and we're still okay.
Yeah.
Which is what I do. Like, I do that for myself. When I'm afraid, I will admit I'm scared. I don't know what the hell's going on right
Mhm.
now,
Mhm.
but, and I'm going to be okay. I
And-
always
and-
follow it up.
Yeah.
And yes, not even but,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be okay. I always follow it up with something, with an affirming statement. So affirmations work, mindfulness practices work. Prayer, if you believe in prayer or if you believe in a higher power, you better talk to that higher power that you believe in. And ask for guidance and ask for the strength to be faithful in the wait.
Mhm.
Sometimes we lose faith because it's not happening as we want it to happen when we want it
Exactly.
to happen.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
sometimes we got to just pray for a little patience. Just calm me down a little bit and let
Yes.
me wait.
Yes.
But
Yes.
I think that those are a few practical ways that I have built faith. And then talking, oh, this is another one. This is one very important one that I don't want to leave out. Your company, the people you keep around
That's
you
what I was
can,
going to say. The company
oh,
you keep, right, surrounded with
yes,
supportive people who encourage
yes,
faith and not discourage the faith, right?
yes. That's so
Yeah.
important. You got to
Yeah.
have a tribe that will pour into you when you can't
Yeah.
pour into yourself. Surround yourself with people who
Yeah.
might even have more faith than you and can speak
Mhm.
over you sometimes when you don't
Mhm.
have it is
Yeah.
crucial in building faith.
It is. It is. And recognizing also when fear is holding you back is also something that's really important,
Mhm.
right? When the fear starts to become paralyzing, when you start to do
Yeah,
things, become overly avoidant, you're constantly thinking of the
the
possibility of
worst
failure.
thing. Yeah.
You said replacing those negative thoughts, right? I call it the stinking thinking,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And, self-reflection. So you understand, why am I not taking that move? Why am I not doing XYZ when I know that this is something that benefit? I'm stuck in the throes of fear.
Yeah, I agree. And if you can't on your own feel like you can't do that process of self-reflection, then connect with a professional.
Mhm.
Connect with someone who can, hold your hand and guide you through self-discovery and through the process of working through your anxiety and working through your fear and talking through your fear to come out on the other side. Listen, therapy is not the end all be all fix, but it can help. It can
Yeah,
help.
yeah, 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 definitely. So one more question.
Okay.
I have one more thought about this topic.
Okay.
What do you think about what role does failure play in faith over fear? Because remember, failure is a part of life.
Oh yeah. That's a good question. I love that you brought up failure because a lot of people don't want to talk about failure, but I
They don't
love
want to
failure.
failure. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love failure. You know why I love failure? And I've had to come to this. This is wisdom, y'all. I'm gonna drop some
Mhm.
wisdom. I love failure because I feel like I learn the most about my strength when I
Sure.
fail. It's
Yeah.
a lesson. I don't look at fail.
Mhm.
The only time you fail is when you don't try. That's what I believe. I believe the
Yeah.
only time you actually fail yourself is when you don't even give it a shot. And I have some sayings that I say to myself. I say I can't doubt when I'm in my doing season. So am I doing or am I doubting?
Mhm.
These are things that I say to myself. But when I think about failure, I think of it as a lesson. This
Yeah.
didn't work. One,
Yeah.
because it wasn't supposed to work.
Exactly.
But what did I learn about myself in the process of trying to make it work? And what
Mhm.
can I do differently next time? Or
Mhm.
what can I continue to implement that did work? Even though this thing that I wanted to happen didn't happen as I wanted it to, there is
Sure.
no failure in that because I
No.
still learned something about myself through the process of trial and error. I I have a 3-year-old now, and I love when my 3-year-old makes mistakes. I love it because you're learning about yourself. It's okay. You made a mistake. This is how we rectify the mistake. This is how you can
Yep.
fix this. But there is no such thing as failure. There's lessons and then there's blessings. And both are a blessing in my book. That's how I feel.
Definitely. Not succeeding. I don't even want to say failure.
Right.
Not succeeding, not meeting your own,
Expectations.
expectations. It's a part of growth, right? It cultivates growth. If you have the correct mindset, that growth mindset, right, it takes you to the next level, right? It helps you to understand that this is just a temporary setback. It's not the
Exactly.
end of the road, right? It encourages you to learn from your mistakes and to grow, not to just sit down and give up.
I agree. And we
Well,
hear it all the time, Pia, as clinicians. We hear our clients say all the time, I'm afraid to fail. They say it all the time.
exactly.
I'm afraid to fail. And I'm like, all
They
right.
stay stagnant and they don't grow.
Right. They don't even attempt to do something different. But they're
Yeah.
also unsatisfied in the space of where they're staying.
Yes.
So
Yes.
you're unsatisfied, you feel trapped, but you won't try anything else because you're afraid to fail. Are you afraid to fail or are you afraid to learn?
And are you afraid to challenge yourself?
Right.
Because that's all in the mix also, right?
Yeah.
Challenging yourself.
But faith fuels the learning process, I believe.
Right.
Faith
Yes.
gives you the fuel to continue on, especially when it's difficult. It's easy to believe in something when things are going good. It's easy. It's so easy to be like, oh, life is great when things are going good.
All the faith and the confidence in the world
Okay. When you're getting your needs met, right?
Yes.
But when you feel your
When the
needs aren't
seasons
getting
change,
met,
it gets harder when those seasons start to change. And like you said, your needs aren't getting met the way you would like them to be met. And in the time that you want them to be met.
Thank you. And
Right? Because
sometimes,
we have that expectation of time.
yes, I was going to say sometimes what needs to change is not, it's your expectation of what's happening.
Yep.
It's your
Yep.
expectation of what's happening.
Yeah.
Because you're missing the blessing. You're missing the lesson and the blessing in it because you want one thing and you're not paying attention to what you're being given, what you're being offered.
Yeah.
So, sometimes we just got to check ourselves and check what we expect about a certain situation.
Yeah. That's a wonderful way to end this segment.
I love it. All right, Pia. Well, listen, take us on home, Pia, with our weekly wisdom.
Okay. Well, we were talking about faith, so my weekly wisdom is faith moves us forward and fear keeps us stuck.
Period.
Period.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And I'm going to run it back for a second time. The cost of freedom is faith. You want to be free, you got to believe that you already are.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, listen, as always, we thank you for tuning in and watching What Makes Us Human podcast. We love you. We hope that you got something from this episode. If you did, please comment below. Let us know what resonated with you. Share, like. There we go. Subscribe and follow us for more good stuff.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in.
Bye, y'all.